Good evening, Guardians, and welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. Normally, Corey would be the one doing the introduction, but he is busy being a career man tonight. He is on a business trip. So, joining us tonight, returning, is Yeetus Deletus himself, the glorious Spectre of the Citadel, A1
Ooh.
Johnny.
Thank you for having me back.
See, I can make jokes about Mass Effect now because I played Mass Effect.
Yeah, I was about to say, put the TWAB on pause. Mass Effect hour, Mass Effect block
no,
right here.
I don't think we can divert into Mass Effect talk for a third or fourth episode in a row.
They will revolt.
If we get slow again in the summer, maybe we'll do a special one-off of the Citadel casuals. I don't know. But anyways, Johnny is joining us here tonight because we've got a packed show. We're going to talk the TWAB. We're going to talk about Beyond Light's exotics. We're going to talk about the weapons that are being sunset that were not talked about in the TWAB because I'm heated. We've got a question from Joe Asis, and we're going to talk day one raid prep, essential mods, and legendary weapons that you can still go get and you should get. Spoiler alert, a lot of them are weapons that we talked about last week. But, John, to start things off, let's go ahead and let's jump into this here TWAB.
I'm ready.
Apologize if the audio sounds a little wonky. We're trying a new program tonight. We're recording with Zencaster instead of on Skype, but this is a trial run. It already sounds a little bit clearer to both of us, and definitely the image looks clearer on our cams. So, fingers crossed that this works out. Corey and I may shift over here permanently. The TWAB this week, though. You open it up, you get this beautiful picture of Zavala right at the top. And has been confirmed on Twitter from the cinematics lead that is a still from a new cinematic that we have not yet seen from the Witch Queen. I'm not sure. So that is not Zavala in the helm, by the way. Corey got very excited when you messaged me earlier. He was like,
I saw that.
Zavala in the helm! I was like, no, that is Zavala's office, because in the helm you would have the hangar around it, and the Traveler is much farther away.
Yeah.
Now, while that may still happen, because John and I are both pretty strong believers that the tower is going to go bye-bye at some point in the very near future, he's not in the helm quite yet. I just hope that they save Shax's workout CD. I hope that's part of the evacuation quest from the tower, is that you save the workout CD and, I don't know, you pick up the Titan hammer regardless of who you are, just beat the shit out of whoever's in the tower. That's my honest, ardent hope for what we get.
Just make that the background music while you're defending the tower for
my
the second
god,
time here.
Shax's cosplaying as Richard Simmons is what we all need in life. I need a vocal cameo from Saladin in there. I don't know. There's so many good things you can do there. But the first update we have in the TWAB, these all kind of feel half-baked, and this week's kind of continues that trend, and it's really annoying me. There's good info, but we're getting half the story, so at some point they got to start giving us some meaty TWABs.
Yeah, just a real quick aside before we dive into this.
Yeah.
Is it just it feels like we're not getting a whole lot of information. I don't. They haven't shown a lot about Witch Queen. We know the big beat with Savathun getting, the Hive getting the light. We know about Void 3.0 and weapon crafting, but other than that, they seem to be playing it tight-lipped. But I don't know if that's just my memory or not. I feel like we saw a lot of Beyond Light and Shadowkeep before it came out.
Well, so with Beyond Light and Shadowkeep, I would say the important thing to remember is we got those reveals about 5 months before they came out. Witch Queen, we got the name announcement in 2020.
Yeah.
We got the actual first trailer for it back in September, or August. It's not that much longer of a gap. It's 6 months and a little bit of change, I think, or 6 months exactly, something like that. It feels like they're intentionally trying to be more mysterious because they want to build the hype, and I think they have that confidence in the storytelling now. Coming on, if you had another season, because we have to remember the season of the Worthy was ending as we were going into the Beyond Light reveal. You had to show a lot of that game to get the confidence.
And Arrivals was so tied to this whole year of storytelling.
So that's kind of the thing that I've likened it to, is Arrivals was really the prologue to Beyond Light, but it also served as a prologue to the seasonal stories. The seasonal stories really continued out of that. So I'm treating Lost is directly leading into the events of Witch Queen, but I'm almost wondering if it doesn't just lead into the events of the next season as well.
Yeah.
Because the seasons are supposed to be the ongoing story, and like the expansions are the standalones. You can still experience most of the universe by playing those. Those are
Yeah.
kind of like the key cornerstone moments in a lot of ways. Like if you come back in to the Witch Queen, you're probably gonna be like, what is this nonsense about us having an alliance with Callus's daughter? Why is Mithrax just like, why are him and Saint like giving each other neck massages? Like, what is
Yeah.
going
Why
on
the hell
here?
are there Elixni on the tower? What is what is
What are the Smallin? We got to talk about the Mara Bay came back. We got to talk about some stuff here. Um,
why is Crow on the tower? Or
why
excuse me, why
is
is Aldrin on the
Aldrin
tower?
hanging out here
Decked
shooting
out
the
like he's getting
shit?
ready to go for a raid, just casually kicking it, Yeah.
And those are a lot of the questions. We've been getting some teasers the last couple weeks. I do think we're getting another full length trailer probably on Monday. Monday or Tuesday would be my guess. Probably
Ooh.
Tuesday to say, oh, we're like we're 20 days out from launch, or 21 days. We're exactly 3 weeks out. We strongly suspect the exorcism event is happening Tuesday at reset. Which
Yep.
will be a big deal when that happens. That fits with the timeline of the final thing comes 3 weeks before the end of the season. Um, Trailer will probably drop then, and then you'll get another one probably with that final TWAB on the 17th. Um, for all the people clamoring for weapon crafting deets, I don't think we're getting those ahead of time. I think that will very much be something maybe in a blog post the day that it releases. Like, hey, when the patch notes come out, here you go. Here's a whole thing on weapon crafting for you to read while the servers are down for 4 hours.
Uh oh.
I can see that happening. I don't think you want to waste space in a TWAB. You have to already go over sandbox changes. You have to go over the gambit changes eventually. You're probably going to go over, new ritual weapons for each playlist. Like, there's a lot of stuff to dive into before we actually launch, all while avoiding story content. Like, they might not want to dive in the weapon crafting because there could be story spoilers associated with that. How we get to that point. Which would make a lot of sense to me. Let's talk about what we do know. Changes to ritual playlists. Um, so they get into some data here, say that we approach things differently than they kind of expected us to, even with the changes. So for instance, in Vanguard Strikes, they did not expect us to run more than they anticipated, so they're gonna up our reputation gains. Uh, Reputation on completion, activity streaks, nightfall multipliers, and nightfall completion quality bonuses. And the overall reputation gain should be about twice as fast for most players, with the ability to optimize even faster by playing higher difficulty nightfalls and utilizing the activity streak more. This is great news for us. We like running masters and grandmasters a lot.
Yep. Yep.
Mr. Conqueror over here, especially, uh, I think that this just helps prove that if you're slogging away, like I know you and our friends Max and Phil really slog away at some of these nightfalls for like a week or two to get them down. Your
Yeah.
attempts are not necessarily in vain. Then when you finally get it done, like, oh, you're getting a Grandmaster done. Maybe if you knocked out a few Vanguard strikes ahead of time, or you were just hanging out in that playlist, bam, you're going to get hit with this huge rep bonus at the end.
Yeah, which is great because honestly, were it not for this crazy extended season, I doubt I would have gotten that ascendancy strike ornament. I don't think, like you said, most of my interaction with the strike playlist is through the nightfalls, and that's me trying and failing to do a grandmaster for a week, beating that one, and then moving on to the next one. I don't necessarily hang out in the strike playlist once I'm at level.
No, I mean, you and I have been known to hang out in there to try and get some god rolls.
Yeah,
Um, but I think at this point in the year, there weren't really any strike weapons that we wanted that we didn't already have. We already have great third axioms. We had great royal
yeah,
entries. If you didn't have it, you were able to buy it from Zer. For us, it's always the new Nightfall weapons, and even those this season were underwhelming. I think is the
yeah,
right word.
yeah,
So why do I need to go in there when I have good versions of each weapon already? And then because of things like the Inverted Spire, and Lake of Shadows, we have farmed the god rolls of the best weapons, the plug ones, the Uzumes, the palindromes. We have great the hung juries. We have great rolls on all those, and there's really no reason for us to hang out in regular strikes. I'm hoping this kind of gives us a reason to, like, well, if you need to go in there to get your powerfuls and stuff, you're going to be rewarded with a meaty bonus out of it.
Yeah.
That's all I want. That's always been my biggest thing with Destiny is I don't mind what you do, just respect the investment of time that I'm giving. Like Dares of Eternity is not an activity that rewards my time and makes me feel respected. It makes me just hate whoever designed the reputation system and wants me to yeet them off the tower.
Yep, which is a shame for an activity that is extremely fun and a reward pool that
Yeah,
is awesome.
great
By the
reward pool,
time
but
you get done
God,
doing 100 of those to get Zer to max rank, you never want to touch it again. And that's
and
I don't
that's a
think,
hundred if you're lucky.
yeah,
That's taking into account, streak bonuses and everything else, which the max streak
yeah,
bonus is like 180. Now that they fixed it, it was 120 apparently. So it was
yep,
even worse. Like I can't get it out of my head how bad how bad it really is. I hate it. I'm still trying to get my final ornaments. I'm still trying to get my ship, my sparrow, my ghost. This is gonna be something I work on for like the next year because I can't be bothered to do it right this second. It's gonna make me hate playing Destiny right before an expansion comes out.
yeah, and that's never where you want to be, you
No.
know.
Moving on to a topic that you and I love, though, Trials of Osiris. I told you guys we were done talking about Trials for a while, and sure enough, as the sun rises, John is here when we have to talk about Trials again. Uh, Trials of Osiris rep gain was about 30% slower than anticipated, while not having an accelerated gain when higher ranks are achieved. We felt like we were not valuing winning rounds enough, especially players getting to 20 round wins and at 7 ticket wins. We've added a small amount of Trials rep at match end for every round won in that match, which increases based on how many ticket wins a player has. At the top end, each round one awards 21 rep, up to 105 extra reputation per match. This ideally speeds up Trials reputation gain by 50% or more for players who do not regularly reset their ticket in an attempt to go flawless. We were not able to give an accelerated reputation gain for higher ranks in the Witch Queen for technical reasons. Look for more news on that sometime later in the year. So I'm okay with this. Trials
Yeah,
again. Trials rep gains are the same complaints I have about Gambit when you get towards the end. It's a fucking slog to finish that reset.
yeah,
You have to wait for the double, but even then, the trials resetting because nobody's trying to reset their rank after like halfway through a season with trials. You're done. It's only sweaties. There's no point.
yeah.
But in an ideal world, trials will be pretty populated for probably 2/3 of the season in a normal season, not a 6 month season. Which for me was enough to get through almost 2 resets. And I was playing very casually. I went really hard for like 3 out of the first 4 weeks, I think, and that was it. I really
Oh yeah,
dropped after that.
I I love PvP, and I
Yeah.
can't say I've touched Trials in months.
The
You
last
know,
time I touched trials was probably end of October, beginning of November, maybe.
yeah.
Maybe. My last trials weapon I got, this should speak volumes, was one I bought from Zer. He sold Scholar about a month ago.
Oh, you picked up a scholar from him.
I did. It wasn't in my loot
um,
pool yet, so hey, it came with
yeah,
no distractions. I'm okay with it.
I feel like these for Trials more than the other vendors. I feel like the reputation track is there for normal players who aren't going to go to 357. You know, it's a
Absolutely.
kind of a backdrop. No matter what, you're going to get some drops. You're going to get some upgrade mods. You're going to get,
Well, and
um,
that's the case that Corey and I were making last year at the beginning of the season was, and it seems sure enough like they're taking Saladin in this direction at the end of this next season of the Witch Queen. That by early summer we should have Saladin fixed, and maybe Banshee will have some rewards in the line too, where you can pick your rewards, but everybody feels like their time is valued, even if they're not like amazing. Like
yeah,
I was telling our friend Ray, I says, I really wish you were high enough level because I would take you in there right now to go
yeah.
get some of those weapons. Those are almost best in class weapons across the board. But they've made
And
trials.
not for nothing, they look beautiful.
They look beautiful. Uh, they're best in class. I can't tell you the last time I wasn't running either Messenger or Peacebound in my primary slot.
You'd catch me this week trying to conquer the corrupted GM. I'm using a trial sniper rifle and a trials linear fusion. Like
Yeah, I mean, Reed's Regret is 100%. If you can get the God roll on it, it's the best legendary heavy in the game right now.
hmm
You just it's great. It's great, but I'm glad that these rewards are much more accessible to everybody else. We also got the news that there is a new weapon in the pipe, but they're not going to let us know about it until Trials actually returns, as well as the Summoner is coming back to the loot pool.
praise
Um,
be.
yeah, very excited. It's a great time for Summoner to come back. And this is how weapon rotation should work. You take something out, you don't sunset it necessarily, but then you bring it back. But when you bring it back, it's a brand new perk pool.
Yeah,
Brand new
and
perk pool.
they've added a lot of really good perks this year. I'm very excited to see what they add next year. So it's actual meaningful, and it's
I'm
not
fingers
just a sideways
crossed.
upgrade.
I'm gonna pray at my Luke Smith effigy tonight, and hope that Frenzy is one of the new perks added.
Yeah.
That
Well,
is one I'd personally really like. That or that and Vorpal. I would really like to see both of those get added to the purple.
yeah, and who knows, in line with Headstone and where they're taking this, where they're really wanting to reward you matching element type of your weapon to your
Yeah,
subclass,
yeah.
what kind of unique solar perks they could cook up for it. You know what I mean? Um,
I feel like this won't be one of the ones that really gets those though, because we're not getting Solar 3.0 until best case
yeah,
scenario end of May.
yeah,
So it
and that's a
feels
fair point.
that
Solar
may be
weapon,
a
but
little ways off, but I wouldn't rule out them bringing back the rocket launcher and getting some unique perks on it, or
yeah.
some new perks on Shayuras, for example.
What do you think the odds are we get a Trials Glaive?
I do wonder if it's a glaive. My heart says that it's going to be a because I think the glaive would make people really salty because it's brand new. Um, I'm trying to think like what would draw the most salt, and trying to kind of predict where metas are going to go. A Trials breach loaded grenade launcher, because it would be
With micro missile, it's coming back.
God, dude, we joke about the choppers of Nam, but that is one of the things that would absolutely terrorize me, is that or Recluse coming back in some form. I do truly think it's going to be a sidearm though, because you think
Which
about
I
it,
would love.
there is no sidearm as a reward in any raid. There is one in the Prophecy dungeon, and it's not great.
No, it's
Um,
fine.
yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
fine is being nice, I think.
It looks
Um,
cool.
you have
Uh,
one in you well you have I don't know if Fool's Remedy is still in is still in the loot pool
it
for
is.
Iron Banner. Okay, so you have that and you have
Yep.
Peacebound, but you don't really have one in any aspirational activities outside of that.
Yeah. There's
There's
no adept sidearm in the
there's
game
no
right now.
adept
There's no
sidearm.
adept
There's no time
sidearm.
lost. I
Yep.
think that a sidearm either here or in the Witch Queen raid is an absolute given.
Yep.
That
And a
feels like
bow.
smart
We
choice.
haven't gotten an adept bow either.
We haven't gotten I don't think you're going to get a Trials bow though.
Hmm.
My personal feeling is you just added two very good legendary bows this year in Imperial Needle and Wolftone Draw. You gave us an exotic one in Ticcus that is probably the best bow the game's ever had.
Yep.
If you can use it correctly. Now, not for PvP, but for
No.
PvE,
No.
it's
No.
amazing. I'm trying to work on that Catalyst quest that it's just abysmal in PvP. Get 50 kills, my ass. Um, I think you're onto something though. I honestly I'd love to see him just come straight out of left field with it and say, "Fuck it, heavy grenade launcher."
Ooh. Ooh.
I think that there's just so many possibilities you can do here,
Yeah.
for weapons both here and in the raid. I think you're going to get some archetypes, at least get some archetypes that we don't see all the time. Like I think we all pretty much agree that the deep stone weapons are all pretty. None of them are best in class, but they're all pretty good. In my most of them are good. I shouldn't say all of them. The quest is a weapon that drops in there. And I think that the Vault of Glass weapons are largely okay as well. Maybe not like the greatest things, but like
I
Vision of the
mean, Fatebringer really came back in a big way. I never got one in D1, but it's all over the place in
Fatebring, yeah, I would say Fatebringer, Vision of Confluence definitely has its place in the sandbox, and
yep.
Tomorrow's Answer, or Hezen Vengeance, excuse me, not Tomorrow's Answer.
Yeah.
Hezen Vengeance definitely has a place if you don't have the God Roll Royal entry or
Yeah.
Code Duello. I think
Yeah. And it
that's
is the only other adept. Well, I guess you can get Hothead now. But it's another avenue to get an adept rocket launcher, which matters,
I think
you
it's
know.
unquestionably, unless you manage to get the Trials rocket launcher with like the God rolls right before they took it
Mhm.
out. This is probably your best shot to get something like that. Um, Continuing on, what things are not going to change? Crucible rep gain, which totally fine. I think Crucible progresses perfectly fine for
Oh yeah.
reputation gains. That's the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quickest for me by far.
I
Um,
reset it all the time, and I really
yeah,
don't play as much Crucible as I used to. You know what I mean? I'm not in there every
I've
day.
and I
Um,
mean it helps that you're also getting Crucible rep alongside Trials rep.
mhm.
That really helps, and alongside Iron Banner. So I mean, there's like three different avenues for you to be doing this. Like Crucible levels up the quickest. I don't think it needs to be touched. I do want to note about Gambit though. It says here Gambit reputation gain was 30% slower than desired, but with a Gambit revamp coming in the Witch Queen, we want a full season to analyze playstyles and patterns before making changes. I want to be clear. I understand saying that. I don't agree with it. Gambit
And yet,
is. I do think that the rep gains that rep gain changes, if I can put my words together correctly, that they
we
did
went rounds.
we wine wounds that they did for Gambit recently have
Yeah,
definitely helped. That third round of Mythic is not nearly as bad now. I blew through it in a couple matches the other night in attempting to get one reset on the season, but it's still like it's a tedious activity. Gambit is
yeah,
still not fun. It's brutal if you're not even if you're in there with a stack, it's still brutal. Like you can still get completely wiped. Um, the only thing that makes me kind of ticked off about all this, which they say, and it's a whole paragraph right here. I want to read this because this is something I was really hoping they would change. It was fine for a 6 month season. I don't think it's fine here. We are not making any changes to the activity streak system or placement of the ritual weapon ornaments. We have heard feedback on it and don't believe it is currently meeting our design goals. It's intended to feel like a nice bonus for dedicated players, but rarely feel critical. Right now, it can sometimes feel too punishing to leave a ritual playlist, but this is being partially driven by Gambit, Vanguard reputations moving slower than intended, combined with the ritual ornaments being on the second reset. We want to see how the tweaks to Vanguard rep changes playstyle and hourly gain before we make any changes across the board. I'm going to tell you right now, if this is what you're going to do, you need to remove those challenges from the challenge card in a regular season.
yeah.
You have to do that, or you have to buff Gambit in a massive, massive way for rep
And
gain.
that's why I'm so curious about what they mean by Gambit revamps. You know,
Like,
I mean,
I want to
if
know, I just want to know who was out here actually complaining about earning the weapon ornaments through little quests for the vendors. Because let me tell you something, you could go do it with any archetype of those weapons. You didn't have to go in there
yeah,
with Ascendancy. You could go in there with Gallarhorn if you wanted to now and get those kills. You could go when it was Adored. I went through and did a lot of mine with in Crucible or Crucible. I did a lot of mine with Izanagi's Burden,
there you go, baby.
which
Pick
just
up
because
one green brick and
yeah,
cheese it.
pretty much. You could do that. What was Null Composure? I ran around with
Yeah,
Jotun. I ran around and spammed Jotun and Telesto. That's how I got mine. Like you could do that, and I don't understand why you would want to pigeonhole yourself into this. And I mean, granted, you just earn it by straight playing now, but two resets on anything other than Crucible is a little brutal. The Vanguard changes sound good, but I need to play them to know how
yeah.
they
I mean,
actually
if
sound.
exactly, if they do reset as fast as Crucible or roughly the same, then maybe it won't feel nearly as bad because
Yeah,
you know, as much as I enjoy the Crucible, it's not it makes up like maybe 20-30% of my playtime at best, and I usually reset Crucible before I'm max level in a season. You know what I mean? So if it really is that fast to get through the Vanguard reset, I guess we'll have to play with it to see how it feels. But
It's absolutely wild. I don't understand it, but okay. Yeah, I'll follow your lead on this one, Bungie. That kind of feels a little ridiculous to me. Um, and then one last note here with vendor changes. We know how annoying it is to not remember which reputation bonus is active by Thursday or Friday. Starting in Witch Queen when double ranks or rewards are active, those activities will have a modifier on the launch screen to remind you. This feels like something that, duh. Uh, but okay. It only took us like a year and some change to get here. Um, Vanguard Ops, of course, there's changes to the Vanguard playlist coming. Vanguard Strikes will now be called Vanguard Ops because the 4 battlegrounds are going to join them. Just as plain old vanilla strikes, no champions, no nothing. Good. Those were basically strikes as it was.
yeah, and
Um,
they're fun. And here's to not putting everything in the vault if it doesn't need to go. I'm glad that we're getting some of
yeah,
that sticking
I
around.
there are
You know.
two missions that I think they should have kept in here, and those
Hmm.
are the High Celibate mission and
Presage.
fight. Well, I definitely think Presage could be. I think Presage may be too mechanically heavy for kindergartens.
Too meaty.
Not necessarily too meaty. I think it's a really good mission. I just don't know how it fits. Like uh, as a strike. I
Oh,
mean,
I didn't mean throwing it in the Vanguard playlist. I just wish it would stick around. I'm a
oh,
big fan of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't see why that's going away when it's a standalone thing. That completely baffles me.
It's not even tied to a planet.
If
It's
you can leave Warden,
whatever. Moving
if you
on.
can
Moving
leave Warden of Nothing, you can leave that in.
on.
I think also the Quaria mission should be
Mm,
added as a
mm,
strike. I don't see any reason why those two things cannot be added as strikes. Um,
yeah.
hell, even some of the expunge missions. I don't know. I think you had an opportunity here for a Vanguard Ops playlist and a Strikes playlist, but the fact that bounties will work across all that now, music to my ears, because some of those
Oh yeah.
battlegrounds are great for farming.
Oh yeah.
Specifically, the one in the Cosmodrome is amazing for it. I like that. And then Nightfalls. So John gets to talk about one of his other favorite things here. Nightfalls. One big outlier for
Ooh,
our Nightfalls
baby.
was strike-specific modifiers with damage boosts and other effects that enhanced boss attacks. While some of them were cool and fun, they were generally inconsistent and pushing tactical play more than the intended build crafting. So we've removed these from Nightfalls, starting at Hero. We also added a new style of burn called Acute, which will increase player damage taken from specific elements by 50% and increase player damage done by 25%. Most Nightfalls already had a 25 and 25 split. Um,
Mm.
this is intriguing, but I am terrified thinking of certain nightfalls. Looking at you, Proving Grounds. I'm very scared of Proving Grounds with a solar modifier in both directions. um,
So
yeah,
here's the thing that I want to see more of in the strike in the general strike playlist, not just Nightfalls, but as someone who loves the punishment and goes in there and does all these grandmasters and truly enjoys it, there's something missing from Destiny 1 that I wish would be more emphasized in Destiny 2, and that's giving us positive modifiers on top of the negative modifiers.
I agree. I agree.
give give us something that okay, and they do it in dares, and I think it's really cool, but it's kind of unnecessary in vanilla activities like dares or normal strikes, where okay, your sidearms do more damage, void does more damage both for you and bad guys, something to build into, a reason to be like, oh, okay, well this is normally my GM loadout, but this week, it's solar and pulse rifles, so I'm going to make a build around that to maximize that little boost that it's giving me, and it makes it a little more dynamic instead of just here's 15 modifiers that make it harder for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, like you go play Vanilla Strikes and you get things like heavyweight. Give me that in some Grandmaster activities, man.
Yeah, why do you need that in a normal strike? Who's sweating normal
Right.
strike?
And then moving seasonal strike modifiers we introduced from season 15 from the Vanguard playlist to Nightfalls. These are unique buffs and boosts to aid you if you lean into the combat themes of the season. For season 16, they are themed to the glaive and void
Mm.
usage. These
Mm.
rotate weekly and appear on all hero, legend, and master Nightfalls. We look forward to feedback on these as we continue to iterate. And then the sweet, sweet loot. The two new Nightfall weapons, Silicone Nermona and Duty Bound are coming back. Both Curse of Osiris weapons. So,
I am one of the most loved expansions, as I'm sure the community
oh
will
yeah,
let you
it's a regular Taken King, man.
know. But I am extremely excited to get an adept 600 RPM kinetic auto rifle. Mm, here for it.
Yeah, very excited for that because I enjoy I like well we have one. Isn't Scavelock a 600
A,
kinetic?
adept, an adept.
Oh,
There are no
oh,
adept
that's right.
kinetic. Yeah,
That's right. That's
we have
right. That's right.
shadow price we have shadow price and technically summoner if you earned it back in the
Hey,
day.
listen,
Summoner's coming
I
back,
am
but
I'm a Shadow Price truther. Okay, I
yeah,
really
and
like it.
shadow price is good, but 450 RPMs are a choice, and
I'll put it this way: it's a choice to take it into PvP, which I do more often than I like to admit. I've gone on 10 kill streaks with it though, so I think it makes people salty. I like it in Nightfalls. I specifically liked it a
yeah.
lot for when we were in Inverted Spire. I would run that
Hmm.
with Succession, and I
Yeah.
really liked that. I thought that was great. It's a great anti barrier weapon when anti barrier scout or auto rifle is up. So I like that a lot. Um, we've also been iterating on how we communicate shields present in a strike if match game is on. All nightfall activities will now have a modifier that lists the shields used. Thank God. Thank God. Uh, Lost sectors largely going to operate the same. Legend and Master will now be the exact same lost sector. One lost sector per day. So if it's legs that are up, you could say it's leg day, and
Yep.
you know just trek out there and do it. I've already seen a lot of complaining. I don't know how this is complaining. It was confusing when it was two. Remembering what the rotation was and trying to guess what it was going to be
I,
on the
I
on the
shouldn't have
next
to
day.
follow a bot on Twitter to figure out if I need to care about the lost sector each day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, because how a lot of us don't log in every single day, especially when
Yeah.
you get towards the back end of the season. So
And there's no simple menu to find it. You literally have to click
no,
on each planet, scan around to see if it's that
it's
one, then
fucking
look at it
awful.
to see what. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fucking awful. Crucible, they're rolling back the longer respawn times that were implemented in the 30th anniversary patch, and they were removed a few days ago already. There's a whole explanation there if you want to go read it. We're not going to read out the analytics. Don't really feel the need to. Same with the HDR update. If you play on PC, go read these instructions to figure out how to fix your windowed HDR and windowed full screen
Yeah.
and stuff.
I will say that is a nice change as someone who does play on PC now. Specifically, I turned it off because I couldn't take screenshots. When I would take a screenshot, it would give me two screenshots. One would be super bright and one would be super dark, and I don't know why. I'm
Yeah.
glad this is going to change that. I literally turned it off just because I couldn't screenshot in Destiny, which is something I do often, and I feel like many people do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Bungie names. You should be able to change your Bungie name as we approach the Witch Queen. They will let us know they're targeting a date close to the Witch Queen's launch date. Um, so I'm kind of
We're no
curious
more
what that would.
Guardian string of numbers.
Yeah, and of
I always
course,
like wondering what naughty name they had that got them with that default one.
I think a
Anyways,
lot of times it's just you had characters that weren't supported anymore from custom keyboards.
oh yeah, yeah, that was a big thing on Steam. Having
Yep.
your name is unstoppable logo, Jotun logo. Yeah, you know.
I mean, listen, if I could have claimed that, I would have. Um, Rewards that will disappear on February 22nd, just as a reminder. Bungie rewards, season pass items, Shax, Drifter, and Zavala rewards, season vendor rewards, gunsmith rep, seasonal seals, and rewards for all of the past year. It does not list it here, but Saint 14's engrams that you have stored up will go away. Those are going away. If you have not used those, go ahead and use them. I'm going to dump all mine into Sola Scars now to try and get a chain reaction sword.
Mm,
Um,
so fun, Jeff.
Certain seasonal titles, seal/title triumphs and rewards require multiple weeks to fully complete. So if you want to obtain those rewards, you should begin the process right now. And I don't think that there's anything else here.
They introduced their new community manager
They
for
did. They did. I
different
scrolled straight
ranges.
past that on
Yeah.
accident. We have another new community manager for South America. For Latin America. I'm trying to find out where his paragraph is. Uh,
It was slightly
Bruno.
above where you were. Yeah, Bruno.
Yep,
Yep.
he comes from Spain. I misspoke. He's not for South America. He's for the Latin America community, I guess. Yep, Southern Europe and Latin America.
Yep.
Um, Bruno, this was something that a lot of people reached out about around the Bungie bounties, and it's just really cool. Like as we have the capacity to see these added for a global
Yeah.
studio like Bungie, it's
Yeah.
representation matters. We always say this.
I mean, this game is localized in what is it, 12 or 13 different languages? You
Yeah,
know,
something like that.
so there's having people to represent and pull eyes where they're needed in those communities is always awesome to see.
Right. So, big shout out to Bruno. I'm sure that we will see him pop up in these twabs from time to time, or Bungie bounties and things of that nature. I think he's more on a little bit of the back end of things, like Queen Bartley is. Um,
Hmm.
so we'll see how that goes. We do have another topic to get to before we get to the two topics that John and I are really hoping to bring to the table tonight. Um, Damage tweeted out something this evening that I'm kind of hot was not put into. Not even necessarily this week's TWAB, but this should have probably been put in last week's so you could plan accordingly. Uh, Certain weapons that are being vaulted from endgame activities. Uh, of course, we know that Nightfall weapons were due to rotate out, but it's the manner in which they got announced that really makes me upset. So, Trials, you will no longer, after the 22nd, you will no longer be able to earn Igneous Hammer or Soulless Scar. Iron Banner, the Multi Mock, Time Worn Spire, Guiding Sight, and Steady Hand are disappearing. And the Nightfalls, Swarm, Shadow Prize, Uzum, and Hung Jury are all disappearing. And you may ask, why is Josh upset about this? Well, for starters, we have one Iron Banner left on the season, which is the last week of the season. I personally don't think they were planning to do another one, and then they went, "Oh crap, we need to do
We
another
got a
one."
whole month.
We got a whole month, and we got four weapons we're getting rid of. People would have been, and rightfully so, would have been furious.
Yeah,
Um, Trials, okay, you've had your opportunity to get those with the Engram focusing. I don't have too much sympathy for you if you don't have those at this point, or good rolls of them. You still got a couple weekends. I expect Trials to be pretty populated this weekend after this news. The Nightfalls are the ones that I'm upset about because this is the last week in the rotation that you can earn Uzum for the entire season. And I figured, okay, maybe it's safe and it'll come back the following season because this came back and this was a thing from Splicer. Like maybe this will still come back. Nope. Uzum and Hung Jury are both leaving. Uzum is obtainable for the last time of the season this week, and then one of these for each week, basically. So it goes Uzum, Swarm, Shadow Price, and then Hung Jury will be on the last week with good old Lake of Shadows to farm it on. This is frustrating for a number of reasons. And I'm going to get to Dylan's explainer here in just a second, his qualification for this. But to not tell people and then to just drop this news unceremoniously on Twitter on a Thursday evening and not even put it into a TWAB feels like a pretty big oversight to me.
we've
When
had
these,
what 2.5 months of downtime.
yeah,
You know,
you could have told us about this when these are weapons that show up at best once a month. Um, I feel like this should have been publicized a little bit more. You've had so many people return during the 30th anniversary event or come back. They played for a loss and then they dipped and they're coming back because the exorcism's getting ready to happen. And now they're like, if you didn't get this, like, oh shit. Because it's not just the normal ones that's disappearing. It's also the adept versions. And keep in mind, for those of us who do not have the Conqueror title, our catch-up node is not active. It is not
yeah,
activated yet. I cannot go if I needed to go in and farm and use Zoom. I can do that because it's Devil's Lair this week. But what if like the worst case scenario had played out and it was like fucking corrupted like last week with the double Nightfall rewards and you gave us corrupted?
uh,
Okay, like there aren't much worse combinations in this game, but somehow, by God, they managed to find them. This has me a little heated, like maybe unnecessarily, but I think this is really tacky to put this out now. Like it's one thing to say, oh, we have two Iron Banners left, and these weapons are going to go away at the end, so you might want to get them because they're completely random drops.
Yeah.
Or the Trials ones where you can focus your engrams, like, I'm fine with you telling me about the Trials guns now. It's the Nightfall ones that literally you have an opportunity one time a month to earn them. And it has me heated.
Yeah, I totally get why we're cycling them out to bring in new weapons, and if the loot pool is too bloated in Grandmasters, it can be frustrating. I can say that as someone
Yeah.
who wanted to get some rolls on Comedian and kept getting shadow prices to drop that week,
Yeah.
etc. So I'm not upset that they're doing it. Like you said, I'm upset that we're just hearing about this now. We've had 2 months of downtime where people could have been grinding for these rolls knowing they were going away.
This just kind of iterates a point that Corey and I have made before, that if you're going to have endgame vendors, such as, because Iron Banner is considered endgame, Trials
Mhm.
is, and I would say Nightfalls are. Those are the accessible endgame as far as I'm concerned. Um, there need to be a way to turn in your engrams that you get from those, like have Iron engrams drop or have Nightfall engrams drop, and you have the choice to take them to Rahul, or you can go spend some money and get them specifically
Yeah.
decrypted at Zavala. There is no reason why you should not be viewing that as a change for Zavala. And I swear to God, if I have to wait for Lightfall to come out to get this change for Zavala, I'm really going to be heated
They
because
really nailed it with Saint. It's the perfect system,
they nailed
you
it with
know?
Saint, and I don't think they were really expecting us to love it as much as we did. And they kind of went, "Oh shit, we've got so much other stuff to get done for the Witch Queen." Like, all right,
Yeah.
we can do Saints for the beginning of season 17. Season 18, I better be reading a TWAB getting ready to revamp Zavala's reward structure for
Yeah.
Nightfalls. I better
And
be
that's why I'm
reading
so
that.
ex yeah. And that's why I'm so excited for them saying they're finally doing that for Saladin, because it is the Iron Banner grind is probably the worst in the game at the moment. Of I wanna grind peace bond rolls.
Yeah.
I could turn in, and did turn in 1,200 to 1,400 Iron Banner tokens and get 3 peace bonds.
Yeah, I definitely agree because I went through the same thing. That's exactly how I was feeling. I turned in something like 800 tokens to get my peace bond with Headstone,
Yeah,
and I was ecstatic when I got it. So, and I haven't taken it off since. But it's frustrating. Like Swarm and Shadow Price, sure, those have been around for a year now. If you haven't gotten those came in Season of the Chosen. You've had a full year. I don't feel sympathy for you on those. Uzum and Hung Jury, and I mean I shouldn't be as upset about these as I am, but they really are two pretty close to best in class weapons for their respective for scout and sniper.
yeah,
Like especially if you can get Hung Jury with box breathing or explosive payload on it, that's going to be a
come
top
on.
tier champion weapon going forward.
Kinetic
Um,
Scout with Firefly, I mean, I know Vision of
yeah,
Confluence has it, but that's a solar weapon,
no, no.
for
I
the
mean,
kinetic slot.
absolutely. I mean, like there are just so many things, and with them saying that they want the mods to play more to the weapon types and the abilities that they're highlighting in the season, like I'm just thinking, like, oh my god, like, what if you do all these scout mods and then you didn't get Hung Jury as one of like three good scout rifle, not even like just kinetic scouts, just like scouts in general in the game, right? It's like what are the three best probably? That Night
Yeah,
Watch and Servant Leader.
and
Um,
if you're going top level, what are the adept scouts you can get? You can get a time lost vision,
that's it.
which even with you and me don't even want to do Master Vog to get that. You can get a Master Scholar, I think, or
Nope,
or an
nope,
Adept Scholar.
nope,
No, no.
nope.
Yeah, so yeah,
You
it's really just
could,
Hungary.
you had to get it like a year ago,
Yeah,
maybe.
so
I
it's
think
really
it was
just
even been
Hungary
yeah.
then, right? For
It's Hung
for
Jury and
Adept
it's going
Scouts.
away. It's one of the only 180s that's good. If not the only 180 that's good in the game that's
Yep.
kinetic. It's just it's very frustrating all around. Like and then I mean Firefly is a pretty unique perk to that gun, and it's going away. It is on, of course, it is on a few others, but as far as the kinetic goes, I think you're right. It is definitely the only kinetic scout that has it.
Yeah, it's that and Fatebringer.
Yeah,
Firefly is otherwise exclusive to Vogue weapons.
yeah. So that's really frustrating, especially because that when that weapon was announced as coming back, that was a change that was celebrated. That was
Yeah,
I've never seen the celebration of a weapon announced that's coming back in a Schwab as much as I did for that. Like
for a
summoner
scout.
at a for a fucking scout, which aren't even good in the meta right now, but it is such a top tier. That particular scout is such a top tier champion weapon.
Yep.
So I urge everybody, the week of February 15th is going to be Lake of Shadows with Hung Jury. If you are able to do it, if you can get your big boy pants on, you can get a fire team through LFG or through your friends. I urge you all, because I would almost guarantee you it's going to be double loot that week.
Yeah.
I would say go in and farm the absolute shit out of at least a regular Hung Jury. I'll be hanging out getting people rolls that week. Uh, it, it's got me heated. And then
Yeah.
Dylan's
Can,
explanations here. I want to read. I want to read these before we go any farther because I do feel like I'm starting to walk all over what his eventual explanation is.
can I say one little
Go
piece,
ahead.
one
Go
little
ahead.
get one little extra? Why the hell aren't they just being added to random normal strike drops?
So okay, I have that same question. Okay, I have that question, and I think he kind of attempts to answer that here. In an effort to address player feedback and reduce nightfalls to a 3 week rotation, 4 weapons will be removed. On occasion, Xur will offer these weapons for purchase with a random roll. We will have further reminders in upcoming Schwabs. So I don't mind that you're moving these. I do think that when Xur sells legendaries, they should either be god rolls of legendaries of world loot, or they should be guns like this that were never truly sunset, but you cannot earn anymore. And that very much is that. I think that builds hype for Xur because for like you and me, there's no point to us running to Xur every weekend. But them giving him old armor for transmog purposes and giving him some of these legendary weapons, I do think that there is an effective way to do that. If I showed up and you could do that, one like you just had a slot in his 6 weapon inventory, one slot was a nightfall weapon that is not earnable that season, just a different nightfall weapon each week, I'd be okay with it. I'm not saying you got to let me buy random rolls. I'm just saying have a nightfall slot dedicated just to that. Why can we not move these 4 weapons to Zavala and let us just purchase random rolls for like 200 shards apiece? Let me burn through my shards if I want to. I don't know. And then he goes on to continue. Before you hit me with what else is leaving? Umbral focusing for Hunt, Chosen, Splicer, and Lost. Of course, we knew that was happening. As for the world loot pool, weapons in the legendary Ingram pool will also cycle out. If you're hunting a given weapon, turn in those gunsmith materials and redeem all vendor reputation rewards on Shax, Drifter, and Zavala. Uh, and then he goes on to explain to Fallout Plays, who replies to him and says, I guess I better get cracking on my Uzum farm. Safe to assume equal number of new loot drops coming in to replace what's getting swapped out. And he says, in some cases, yes, in some cases, no. Example, the base legendary Ingram has a ton of weapons in there. Not every single one will be replaced. Team is looking at distribution methods for the future, but this is a short-term change to help reduce bloat and streamline loot acquisition. I'm not I'm not upset with this. I'm not upset with the world loot pool. I understand why that's what it is, but I do think that this was an opportunity to put these in, like you said, as strike weapons and maybe revamp all of the vendors then at that. And I think that's what they're waiting for is to get to having 8 strike weapons, 8 Gambit, and 8 Crucible to streamline all of the vendors in the same way. To be able to, hey, you earned an Engram from Shax for leveling up with him. Go ahead and you can just redeem that for whatever you want there. For the Ingrams you're supposed to pick up from him to actually get me to pick them up instead of having like 150 of them at the end of the season.
Yeah, and who knows how much of this is oversight of them planning these next 3 years of Destiny out with sunsetting in mind. You know, the
And that's kind of what I'm also approaching it with, even though they, okay, sunsetting is gone, this and that. I think that when you take a weapon away and then you bring it back like 2 years later or something. So like say you introduce a weapon and you have introduced a weapon in 2020 and you're going to take it away now in 2022. You've had 2 years with that gun, with that perk, that specific perk pool, nothing has changed. If it comes back next year, I'm not going to be mad, but it better have a completely different perk pool this time.
Yeah.
It better be
Yeah.
totally changed. Like, I don't mind if you do that. And I disagree with people who say this is what creates FOMO. I don't I don't agree with that. I think as long as you're bringing back with new roles and new ways to play, I think that's okay. Like, oh, you gave a big buff to scout rifles. Let's bring back Patron of Saints for this
Oh,
season.
don't tease me with that, Josh.
My
Don't
all-time
tease
favorite
me with
scout my
that,
all-time
Josh.
favorite scout rifle in this game. I'm using it as an example because I do think eventually you're going to see the weapons that were sunset, the black armory weapons, the menagerie weapons. I don't think you'll ever see the raid weapons come back. I think they want to save those in case the raids come back. But things like
Yeah.
from the menagerie, from the black armory, we already have most of the Joker's wild guns in the game. Give me a new round of drifter weapons in the world loot pool. I think we're all tired of getting gnawing hunger at this point and lonesome.
Good
Get
as it is. Good as it is.
as good as it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
there are now multiple other weapons in that slot for energy autos that are just as good, if not better. That are definitely fresher. Sorrow's verse, anybody? Um, I think that I don't envy whose decision it is to do this, but I mean, looking through there, and I was like, well, if you revamp the world loot pool, it's probably safe to assume a lot of the stuff from these past 4 seasons are probably going to the world loot pool. The Ikelos weapons, I would put money on that they're gone. They are gone for the foreseeable. Them and the Seventh Seraph guns are probably gone for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Warmind cells were never built to stay in the game.
You have. It's not even that. Like Ikelos SMG is still arguably the best SMG in the game. That is not Shayura's. It is arguably the best one in the whole game.
Oh
I
yeah.
still use Ikelos
For
SMG
PvE, absolutely. Yeah.
for PVE content. I absolutely do. I use Extraordinary Rendition a lot.
Yeah.
I like SMGs, but at the same time, I got and this is part of the elitist mentality, I think, is okay, I got mine to drop in summer 2020. I'm fine with this going away after 20 months. If you didn't get one in 2 years, I'm sorry, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. If I can borrow a line from
Yeah.
Bruce Almighty, that you got to say enough at some point. Ikelos sniper rifles, Ikelos hand cannons, Seventh Seraph officer revolvers, that awful SMG, the Seventh Seraph carbine, the saw. It's like that stuff needs to go away, not just because of Warmind cells. Like those were decent weapons, but the loophole has changed over time. Seventh Seraph saw used to be a great gun. Machine guns suck now. Auto rifles, you've got so many better kinetic options than the carbine. It's great for barrier champs and not much else, frankly. Why would I want to use that when I've got Chroma Rush or Scathe Lock
Yeah.
for my kinetic?
Or even what's the prophecy AR? God, I've used it a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. I'm forgetting it too. But yeah, the prophecy one. I mean, you got three great options, and two of them are very easy to obtain right now.
Yep. The last
So
breath. There we
last
go.
breath.
Yeah.
Okay, at a
Yeah.
certain point, you have to say enough is enough, and I think if you have the opportunity to earn them for seasons, and then those become the new world loot pool, I think with a couple of old weapons brought back, such as Cartesian coordinate and whatnot,
Mhm.
that was like a red war weapon, and it was brought back and chosen. I think that that's okay. And then at the end of that year, you say, okay, these are going to go away. Some of these are going to go away forever. Like just straight up. I don't know in what world we need to continue having Sojourner's Tale drop. But whatever that world is, I don't want to be in it. Like I don't know in what reality I need Far Future to keep dropping either. Like these are guns that okay, we didn't like them during the season. We definitely don't like them now. Unless you change them. And so with Sojourners, it's like, well, that's a slug. Like Bungie has been pretty explicitly clear they don't want slugs to ever have that power again for melting. Like
Yeah.
you have to make choices somewhere, and so I guess this is probably a conversation for another time as we get closer and find out. Okay, what's leave? They did a really good list of what was going to be the new world loot pool in Beyond Light a couple weeks before it came out, and I just really wish, again, what were we doing for all of January in these where we couldn't get a list of this is what's currently in the world loot pool, this is what the new world loot pool will be, or
Yeah.
not even tell me what's currently in there. This is what the new world loot pool will be going forward. These are the weapons that will be taken out, and the only way you'll be able to get them is if Zur or the gunsmith happens to sell them. Which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think that gives Zur and Banshee a renewed focus in a lot of ways. I wouldn't be shocked to see Ada be given a certain. as you continue building up this arsenal of legendary weapons, you're going to have to give some to Ada at some point also. It just gives you reason to go see these vendors every week, even if they're just fixed rolls when they drop. It's you still have the chance. There can be god rolls. We all rushed to Zur to buy Royal Entry a couple weeks ago because it was
Yeah.
the exact god roll. It may only be meta for a season or two, but right now it's if you have a Gallarhorn and everybody else has that, you're going to do tons of damage.
And
Um,
it's not just good for veteran players who may not have the right role. It's great for returning players. When you're taking someone like Ray and trying to get him back in, he's like, "Oh wait, you don't have a good rocket launcher. Well, hey, Banshee this week, he's selling Royal Entry with Clown cartridge. Let's go pick that up for you. Sure, you don't have an Adept Hothead or whatever, but
yeah,
this is going to be fine to take and do a raid or a Nightfall or.
I absolutely agree because that's what I've been doing. I've been running through trying to get him whatever I can before it disappears. Um, and now I'm kind of nervous because I don't know what's going to be in the pool and what's not. Look, we're just operating
Yeah,
under the assumption now that okay, if it's in the seasonal rewards, it may just disappear like completely. And there's some like Code Duello. For me, that's one of the few locks that I think is going to the world loot pool. There's not a whole lot of legendary
yeah,
rocket launchers that are good, so I'm like, I'm not panicking over that because that is so tedious to go get right now. You have to get hammer charges, you have to
ugh,
upgrade for it, and everything else. Like, it's just not worth it for one weapon to go and grind all that shit out that we had 3 months to do. And even some of
yeah.
us were getting our rolls into Splicer. I didn't get my Code Duello until I was into Splicer, my God roll.
Jeez.
But because well, back then, that's when all I was getting out of that specific Ingram was fucking threaded needle. I probably deleted about 50 of those things, like everybody else, thinking, oh, "God, it's a linear. These things are trash."
Yeah, who
I
the fuck
definitely
uses
deleted
linear
the God roll.
fusions?
Yeah, and now it's like, "Oh my God, that's all we need."
Where's your clown
Anyway,
cartridge, Orpal, and threaded needle, Josh?
yeah, Savathun's Guardians are gonna pull it out on me. So John, let's go ahead and move on though. We're taking quite a bit of time. I want to move on. We got two other topics and a question we got to get to tonight at minimum. Um, you requested to talk about this next one, which is kind of comparing the exotics from Beyond Light with what we got in Shadowkeep. Because I think when we look at the ones we got in Shadowkeep, underwhelming is probably the nicest word you can use.
Yeah, and until we got to arrivals, I want to say Wither Horde and Ruinous Effigy were kind of what
Traveler's
piqued
Chosen.
my interest and gave me hope for what's coming in Beyond Light. You
Traveler's
know,
Chosen was also one of those in that season this
yeah,
year.
which
They
is
went three for
still
three. They really went three
yeah,
for three. Other than that,
yeah,
I mean, I think it was I think Xenophage and Divinity,
Bastion.
Xenophage, Divinity, Bastion. I think those were all. I mean, Devil's Ruin. It's the more we talk about this, I'm liking the Shadowkeep exotics more and more, John. We all remember how much none of us really cared for symmetry. And then I think about everything else, and I'm like, damn, Ariana's Vow, which very specific types of players liked Ariana's Vow.
Until they buffed up Arbalest. Ariana's Vow had a very niche but very strong
Yeah,
role in the game. Now you literally can't make an argument why you wouldn't just run Arbalest instead.
yeah.
But
I don't. Oh God, I'm so annoyed. Um, the more I think about this, the more agitated I'm getting. I'm trying to find a list of things from, and of course, I can't find a curated list
yeah, naturally.
from Shadowkeep as I'm doing a quick search. But this year, I think that each of the weapons you get, except for Salvation's Grip, really has a point, and
Yeah.
has something that's like actually useful. I would say the only other one I might put down there as like doesn't really have a specific use is probably Duality. I Duality had a place, and then they nerfed it into the ground.
Duality, I'm gonna throw in there with Hawkmoon as a really great PvP option. Duality is insane if you don't want to run Chaperone for those high ceiling Crucible players who only main hand cannon and shotgun 24/7. Duality immediately found a home there, and it took a while. It took until the pellet shotguns got nerfed in Crucible, and everyone suddenly realized at the same time that slug shotguns were good. I've used slug shotguns for years, but when people realized slugs were good, duality is that energy slot option that lets you play with your favorite kinetic weapons and still gets roughly close to chaperone levels of nuttiness. Chaperone still wins on being a sniper. But duality is a very consistent and versatile PvP weapon.
For sure, for sure. God, I just lost my train of thought though. Hang on a second. Fuck. Now I'm really annoyed.
Well, I mean, let's go down the rest of the list of all of the exotics we've gotten this year. Cloud Strike. You've seen what I can do with Cloud Strike in a trials match. You know.
Cloud Strike, the infamous weapon that I did 50 Empire hunts for, and now it's triggering me that I have to go in and do more. I'm really annoyed. Um, I would say that Cloud Strike definitely, like when it comes to PvP, is absolutely absurd. Um, there is just nothing good about that. If you are on the wrong receiving end of that, you're gonna have a real bad day, I think. So good luck. I think Ticcus has a place in PvE. PvP, it's absolute dog shit.
Yeah,
Um,
and rightfully so. It would be such bullshit
Dude,
if it was
it's
good in
so
Crucible.
bad. I shoot an arrow with the tracking, and it doesn't even take out it takes out like maybe a quarter of their shield.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
real bad. I'm trying to grind out that catalyst. That's the worst experience ever.
yeah. I think that's one of
Caius,
the few ones they've landed of making it, letting it fulfill a fantasy, but not making it break Crucible. They kind of nailed it with that because if it were any better, it would be stupid. It would be stupid.
one thing I do like that they really moved away from this year, and last year to a large degree, is they moved away from every other exotic being a fucking hand cannon. Because in Forsaken, you got Ace of Spades, Lumina, Thorn, the Last Word, and then you got
Mm,
Ariana's Vow as the first one in Shadowkeep. In a year, you
mm,
got 5 exotic hand cannons.
mm. I understand and hear you, Joss. I was not mad, but I get it. I get
For
it.
those of us who do not enjoy hand cannons, and there are a lot of us, by the way, and I think a lot of people who don't play a lot of high end PvP, like we were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like I literally out loud said, "Like I don't see the point in getting half of my exotics in Forsaken because I'm never gonna touch these." Whereas at least the ones in Shadowkeep and Beyond Light, I feel like I've used at least enough to get familiar with them. So the list that we got for Shadowkeep, I want to compare this. I finally was able to get a curated list from Light GG.
Ooh, okay.
Um, Monte Carlo, Bastion, Witherhoard, Traveler's Chosen, Tommy's Matchbook, Ariana's Vow, Symmetry, The Fourth Horseman, Devil's Ruin, Divinity, Ruinous Effigy, Leviathan's Breath, Heir Apparent, Xenophage, and Deathbringer. We got about
Not gonna lie to
50.
you, Josh. I love most of the weapons on this list.
That's what I'm saying, because we were talking earlier, we're like, man, this year feels like it was way better than last year. And then I look at last year and I'm like, nah, I think Shadowkeep was still pretty fucking good. Like, again, each of these weapons has a place.
Yeah,
Divinity is arguably the most valuable exotic in the game. For high end content, I would say it is still one of the most aggravating exotics to get. It's something that when you get it, you truly feel like you earned it.
yeah,
Doing all those extra puzzles in, I mean, finding a group to even run garden that knows what they're doing is like a diamond in the rough right now. Witherhoard has been top tier since the season it was introduced. Just echoes of Mountaintop there, which terrified me. Um, Devil's Ruin still a great option for Nightfalls, I would say. For
yeah.
Grandmasters, not so much, but a great option for those master and Hero Nightfalls and
Yeah,
such.
you ever need a unstoppable weapon, it's right there for you. And if you wanted to take the time to learn it, its ins and outs. I don't know if you've ever gone against someone in Crucible who's really good with Devil's Ruin.
No,
It's absurd. It's a kinetic fusion when you
I
know how
have
to use it
I
right.
have used it in the Crucible. I've waited in the trials with it before. I use it especially in like lower end. They're just not expecting it.
Yeah.
Fourth Horseman was really great there for quite a while.
Hasn't
It's
seen any use, but I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it.
Symmetry has just unless you really know how to use that gun, that's one of those like high skill, high reward weapons.
Mhm.
Um, Tommy's Matchbook, LOL. Um, Traveler's Chosen. If you Traveler's Chosen is the ultimate buildcraft weapon as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially with the
I'm
changes
looking.
to ability
Yeah,
regen.
I'm really
It's
looking forward to working with that in this next season with Void 3.0.
Yeah,
A
and the
lot of players.
catalyst they gave it, giving it full auto, giving it osmosis. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't seem like a lot, but it just really pushes it. It really pushes it. It feels so
You know,
good.
Bastion definitely has seen reduced usage, I think, but I do like they made it intrinsically anti-unstoppable.
Hmm.
Still a big fan of that. And then I think you look at those, and then you look at what we got this year. And I'm going to pull up this year's list real fast for us. Because I mean, God, Xenophage, like look how good Xenophage was for so long. For so long, Xenophage was a top tier weapon. Now I'm having to tell people, God, please stop using Xenophage. Um,
What are you doing?
this year, you got Hawkmoon, No Time to Explain, Dead Man's Tale, Cryesthesia,
Mm.
Forerunner, Aegir Scepter, Ticcus Divination, Vex Mythoclast, Lawrence Driver, Duality, Cloud Strike, Salvation Script, Eyes of Tomorrow, Gallarhorn, Lament, Duality. I already read Duality. Never mind. I hit some
You
catalysts
fulfilled the
there.
prophecy there.
I hit some catalysts at the end, but you got roughly 15 exotics this season or this year.
Specifically, I want to single out Aegir Scepter. Aegir Scepter has presented something that makes me so excited with how they're reworking um, our light abilities and how they want those to interact with perks on weapons.
Hmm.
Um, for a long time there were a few unique interactions between exotics and certain weapon classes. Like, oh god, what was the Warmind scout rifle? Anna's scout rifle.
Um, Polaris Lance.
Polaris Lance. Polaris Lance's solar explosions used to trigger something on Solar Warlock because it counted as like an ability. And it was like a really unique, like, oh, hey, it works with my subclass if I go way the fuck far out of my way to do it and use a scout that no one wants to use. Um, the way that Aegir Scepter and to a lesser extent Headstone works with your stasis subclasses and triggers all of those aspects and fragments and synergizes with the entire kit makes me so excited to see what we're going to get this year with Void Arc and Solar 3.0 and um what weapon mods they could add that really a- flow into your whole subclass, make it a full kit. There Aegir Scepter is so unique and so powerful. Like I said, my boy Phil has been bringing those into almost every GM
Yeah,
on Stasis Warlock with a trace rifle, and it works and it's strong. It's insane to me. It's whoever designed this thing should get a raise. That's all I'm saying. That now I'm done gushing about Aegir Scepter.
I largely agree. I have not had as much experience with Aegir Scepter because there's usually already somebody in the fire team running it. That's how good it is.
Mhm.
And it would just be kind of also I have like I definitely have of the three stasis supers the one that you want in high end content.
Yeah,
It doesn't really like yeah, the Warlock one is good for ad clear, but when there's a whole bunch of shields and match game, it's not as good. You want those
yeah,
stasis turrets is what you mainly want. So, oh, you want to clock into overdrive and drain your super. Cool. You want that stasis tornado though. Doing
yeah.
continuous damage, giving the debuffs. Like you want that stuff. Um I think I don't want to go through this whole list. There's simply too many here. We could do an entire episode just on these exotics. If I was going to single out one that is, I've talked extensively about Vex Mythoclast on this show. Um, I think something that really showed like what an exotic weapon should be is for me is lament. Um,
Yeah.
and we were coming right off of Spin to Win. We were coming off of Falling Guillotine. Swords were finally not a joke in Destiny 2 because they'd been a complete joke. Like Black Talon had a very niche use, and you had to be very good with it for it to be good as a caster frame. But largely, swords were forgotten with Destiny 1. By and large, they just simply were forgotten. Falling Guillotine, however, came in as the legendary heard around the world and the automatic boss DPS for absolutely everything. So much so to the point that when we got to Deepstone, we weren't really sure what to do because we were
Yeah.
so used to using it for a whole like 6 months before that. Lament, though, lets you do something and you could block without losing your ammo for once. But then the various kinds of attacks you could still do your uppercut, but if you did block, swipe, and then hold, you would do a
It had a
huge
combo.
it had a fucking combo, but not only that, you could hold and you could still do what I do, which is the anime move, like your fucking
Yeah.
cloud and block and then jam right trigger as hard as you can, and you're going to do like 70, 80K right there. And on top of that, it's an anti-barrier weapon. This is what an exotic should be. It is not adaptable for every single situation, but God, you're going to be really happy you have it for those instances where you need it. That is what it should be. Divinity is not something you use for every single encounter, but
No.
man, you're really happy when you have it. You're really happy when you have Vex Mythoclast. It's not usable for everything, but god
Huh.
damn, it's still good.
And it heals you as well because why
Mm-hmm.
not?
Uh, the other one I would single out, especially when we talk about exotic primaries. Exotic primaries tend to be fair, either high skill or underwhelming. Those are pretty much your
Yeah.
two options. Dead Man's Tale stands out.
Mm.
As something that is not high skill. It is one of the only two random roll exotics in the entire game. It is for me, it is the better of the two, largely because of my play style. But holy shit, you talk about something that is great in PvE and PvP.
Yeah.
I did not expect
Beautiful.
a
It's simple and it
126
works.
to be amazing, and here we are. Especially when you have the hunter dodge reload, it's just like, oh, you pumped out 14 shots and you had subsistence on top of that. Oh well, let's just give you like another 20 shots.
Yeah.
um it with Vorpal for anti-barrier is going to be an absolute monster this coming season. I'm very excited for that. It's one of those weapons I've had to talk people down from using in every single activity, like, hey, please use your exotic slot on something that's like DPS beneficial. And that's the unfortunate part about some of these, right? But with the buff
Yeah.
to Vorpal now, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if somebody wanted to go run that. Now, not everybody can run Dead Man's in a raid or a dungeon, but if somebody wants to run that, and somebody else wants to run Acres, fine. I'll hold it down with Sleeper Stimulant, I guess, or with Divinity or whatever. Like,
And don't forget with the ammo economy, using primary exotics nets you more heavy and energy drops too. So them making more exotic primaries that are worth actually running in high end content
that is
is
true.
nice.
That is true. I'll definitely say that. Um, I think that the last note I want to add on exotics from this year, just when you look at how good it is, we talk about high skill ceilings, and I think that a lot of these weapons are, especially with some of the reworks, such as like we seen with Cryesthesia, and we talk about weapons that really work with their intended element. I'm excited to see how Lawrence Driver improves upon its already ridiculously good nature next season
Yeah.
with Void 3.0. I'm excited to see that. I No Time to Explain is absolutely deadly if you're good with a pulse,
Oh yeah.
especially with the stasis buddy, and if you compare that with arc buddy, uh, that's it's
A
great.
good time. It's a good time,
It's a
Josh.
good time. I think the rest are largely situational. Gallarhorn is
Yeah.
great fun, but is it the top option? No. If you've got a whole group of like God rolled
Yeah, if
code duellos, or the God roll royal entry, it'll be pretty close to max DPS, but
yeah,
otherwise,
if your entire fire team commits 100% to rocket launchers, Gallahorn is your
we
catalyst
don't know
there
how the
to make that
sandbox is going to
happen.
shake up in Witch Queen, but I would
Yeah.
say right now, I still think, and I'm gonna kind of use this as a segue if you don't have too many more exotic thoughts, John. Um,
No, just I just wanted to throw out to Ticcus and Aegers
yeah,
in particular, just totally unique weapons that are unlike something like Tommy's matchbook, useful in a lot of different situations, and I just wanted to shout out to it.
I uh, I want to discuss rating. Okay, day one rating. We're not gonna spend a whole bunch of time on this because at this point, if you're gonna day one rate, you probably know what you want to take in there already, or you at least have an arsenal. But it's something that I emphasize to our guys when John and I go in to do something on day one, whether it's a dungeon, a raid, um, you want to look cool for a cutscene, whatever. You're attempting an exotic mission like Presage for the first time. You want to take your best shit in, but you want to have options to be able to switch it up, especially during week one or two of a raid when we're all still learning new strategies. There's some givens you want to take in. And I think what we take in now is vastly different from what we were taking into Deepstone or even into Vault, by and large, just with how Splicer and Vault expanded the loot pools, how Deepstone expanded the loot pool. Um, we don't talk about Season of the Lost. Um, God, I just hate like all those weapons outside of Wolftone Draw. But let's talk important weapons to have because there's going to be champions of some kind in here. We don't know what kind will be in the base raid, but they seem to lean more towards. I think we've had overload champions in all three raids with champions so far. I think we had
Yeah, and
overloads in all three, and we had anti barrier. I think in Garden as well. Anti
were there
barriers are
barriers in Garden?
I think there's anti barriers. It might be unstoppables. If it's unstoppable and
No, I'm
overload,
pretty sure it's just the overload minotaurs that show up in
okay.
two places.
Well,
I
then
don't remember.
there's
Yeah,
three raids, and all of them have overload champs in
yeah,
them. So
yeah,
overload is
you're
kind
not
of a
wrong.
safe bet. Um, I have since closed out of Bungie.net, so I don't have the mods off the top of my head for the champ
It's
mods.
It's Scout and Bow for anti-barrier, Auto and SMG for overload, and Glaive for unstoppable. But that is not the full list. There will be a few more in there. At least
Okay,
probably one more unstoppable mod.
so
Yeah,
we don't know how the glaive is going to work out quite yet. Okay, we have no idea how that's going to work out. But let's go ahead.
we're hoping it's hot, but
Let's start with anti barriers, okay? Because this isn't. I don't think it's just raid. This is like nightfall and GM prep as well.
yeah,
When we talk scout rifles and bows that are currently available for barrier, um, everybody rejoice who hated overload bow and overload sword this season. Your prayers have been answered because now anti barrier, uh, barrier, overload, and unstoppables all seem to have some decent ones. We don't know what the other unstoppable one is, and I have a strong sneaking suspicion that it's rockets. Keeping
ooh,
in line with what our aspirational weapons have been the season after, we've
yeah,
always had a mod for them, and so because it just says including the option to make your glaive unstoppable. Um, so when you're talking anti barrier scout and bow, I think that some of the essential weapons that you want to have a night watch. Of course, everybody should have a night watch. Period. Preferably with
yeah,
explosive payload, especially on those anti barriers, because that does a little bit of extra damage for you, and kind of keeps other enemies from doing a get down, Mr. President, in front of them. You also have unlimited ammo now, which is great. And Night Watch. Those are kind of my two top tier legendary picks. I would suggest a also keeping a dead man's with Vorpal or Subsistence in your back pocket just in case.
yeah. Servant leader is also a
Oh,
great option.
I always forget
Yeah.
Servant Leader exists. I like it and I forget about it.
Yeah. I've got a surplus rampage in the vault ready for a scout season. Just
Oh, do I have news for you, Johnny boy? Uh, Bows, we've already talked quite a bit about Ticcus tonight. That's going to be an amazing PVE choice for anti barrier. Um, I would also say that I think both Wolftone Draw and Imperial Needle are going to be
yeah.
ones. I would lean more towards Wolftone, frankly. I think Wolftone Draw is a fantastic bow, and I don't like bows at all. Do not get cheeky and run Leviathan's Breath because it won't work. That is
I mean,
intrinsically
it has
too good.
Archer's Tempo now, Josh.
Yes, but it has a built-in champ mod, so you won't get the benefits of your mod. Uh, that
Whispering Slab in the kinetic slot also is pretty good. It's real fast, and it does
if
drop
you,
with
I would
vocal.
say if you want a Whispering Slab, you need to go get one now because I have a strong feeling
Yep.
that's being rotated out.
Hmm.
Um, auto rifles and SMGs. I mean, auto rifles, Chroma Rush, Scavelock, Sorrow's Verse. Those are all great options. You want to get really cheeky about it. I personally wouldn't do it this season. I do it with anti barrier. I won't do it when it's for overloads. Um, God, what is it? I just finished bitching about it. Shadow Price.
Oh yeah,
Shadow
good old
Price.
Shadow Price,
I don't think
baby.
that that's a good one here. Summoner will actually be a really good choice when they bring it
Yeah,
back, but that won't be until at bare minimum week 3. And even then, you had to have previously unlocked it. Probably, I do not think that will be the first weapon they give away. I think that that will
yeah. It'll
be
probably be
the
whatever
new
the new
one.
one is to get people on the
Trials
playlist.
Glaive. Hope
Yep.
glaives don't suck. SMGs. I mean, for me, there's really only 3 options here. Two of which are somewhat easy to get: Extraordinary Rendition and Ikelos SMG, and then Shayura's is the top tier though. That is a great PVE and PvP one.
Yeah, yeah. There's and there's what's the term? I don't want to say layman's, but there's some other like world drop SMGs that aren't terrible. What is the one from Prophecy?
The current one or the old one? Because it was Death Adder, is what it used to be.
Death Adder. Honestly, Death Adder with the right roll is a pretty solid workhorse SMG. You can find better stuff other places, but it honestly like Feeding Frenzy Dragonfly is going to be great for ad
So
clear.
I need to ask you. So
It's
I've never actually like really paid attention to it because I usually use an SMG that doesn't consume as much ammo. Death
mhm.
Adder is one of the beneficiaries of the unlimited ammo now, right?
Oh, 100,
Okay,
100.
so that is actually a great choice. I left that off my list because I liked Death Adder a lot, but
Mhm.
I burned through ammo so fast it wasn't worth using. That
Yeah,
is, it's a poor man's recluse,
yeah,
but it's good. It's still a very solid weapon, I would say. I don't know that I would take it over the other 3, but it's definitely like it's probably the best solar SMG in the game because the others are kinetic, void, and arc. So it's probably the only like really serviceable solar one in the game. And I get a bunch of them dropping. Personally, I see them pretty regularly. We can't
yeah,
talk about glaives. Well, let's talk about some other basic weapons. So in a raid like this, I'm trying to envision what kind of boss we're gonna fight. Right? You always want long range weapons. If you don't
yeah,
have your 4 aspirational weapons of this year, and as a reminder, those are Adored, Salvager Salvo, Null Composure, and Ascendancy. Get all 4 of those. Every one of those has a place
yeah.
in a raid day 1 raid squad. Every single
And
person should have those ready to pull from collections.
yeah, and honestly, Josh, having each of those ready is probably the best move because you don't know what those encounters are gonna require. It could be
I will
something
tell
like
you
Bath.
right. Yeah, I'll tell you right now. Going in, I personally won't be bringing my adored because I have a god roll succession.
Yeah,
I'll be taking succession in, but salvagers and null composure will absolutely be in my inventory. Ascendancy hasn't left my inventory since I got it. It's so good in like ad clear situations,
hmm
especially. Um, I think that those 4 are absolutely essential. Like the quests are not hard to do. Go bang those out if you're able to. Absolutely get
yeah,
those. You need those.
yeah.
Everybody
And
needs those.
the thing that you have to keep in mind when you're going into the day one raid is you don't know what you're going to need to get
Yeah.
through whatever challenge it could be something like Baths and Leviathan, where you need to, no matter what, your only job is to kill that damn Cabal when he comes out of that hole 10 feet in front of your face. And you need a shotgun or a fusion rifle to toast him.
I mean, God forbid it's
You don't,
something like dogs.
Yeah, yeah. You
where
might need
you
a
got to just
sniper. You
wail
might
on
need to.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, like in Garden of Salvation, especially when you weren't like extremely over leveled, having people that could deal with the Cyclopses was crucial because they were so far away and they would one
right.
hit you.
I
You
would say
needed snipers.
the most important thing are your special ammo and your heavy ammo weapons, because your primaries,
Yep,
okay,
just having off
you can
options.
bring your favorite ad clear weapons. We went
Yep,
through the anti
bring your
champion
workhorse.
ones. Bring your workhorses. So like for me, I'll have Chroma Rush. I'll have Chroma Rush on standby. I'll have Extraordinary Rendition on standby. Um, I will have my Grid Skipper Pulse Rifle ready to
Yeah,
go. Because that's just God, it's so good for long distance ad clear with the right roll. And I have Frenzy and Heating Up on mine also, or Frenzy Tunnel Vision, excuse me, is the roll that I've been using a lot. I think having a good sniper is just you have to. If you have a Dord, I would say that's, unless you can get an
yeah,
adept Uzum in the next couple days, that's probably the best thing you're gonna get.
yeah. And not everyone on your team needs to have a sniper, but you probably need
Um,
that in reserves.
So I
If
disagree. I disagree. I think that I'm gonna say a spicy opinion here, because we don't know
oh
what's happening to linear fusions. I would say having a Vorpal sniper rifle, which is why I specifically recommend Adored, is absolutely essential for every single member of your team to have if you are planning to make a day one attempt, because you've got that Vorpal damage. You can slap a boss spec on it, and it's an extremely long range power weapon. And this is a raid that we have an inkling is probable, and I'm saying this just kind of spitballing. The popular theory seems to be that it's going to be Scorn, that it will not be
yeah,
Hive. There will probably be elements of the Hive, but I think they're saving the Hive for King's Fall later this year. Um, that is a Hive and Taken raid. It becomes definitely much more Taken throughout. I think it'll
yeah,
be Taken and Scorn, but it could be Hive and Scorn. We don't actually know what it's going to be, and I think the enemy type can also play a role into that. I know that if I'm going to be fighting Hive, I want a sniper so I can take out those wizards really quickly.
yep. And
Uh,
shriekers.
oh, and oh god, the shriekers, yes.
Yep,
Um, Likewise, if I'm fighting Scorn, I want to kill the abominations.
yeah,
I want to kill the captains as quickly as possible. So whoever your snipers are, they wanna try and tackle those when they can. Like in Deep Stone, there really wasn't a need for a sniper until Taniks. And even then, you didn't actually need it once you figured out the double slug strategy, or once linear fusions became better. You didn't have to run a Dord anymore. You could run anything.
yeah,
And that's what it's all about, is us learning what's good right away. Like I still take Adored with me into Vault quite often. I take that or Succession, so I have another backup weapon for when I run out of my heavy ammo, or if
yeah.
I'm
And it's pretty good with the oracles too.
right. If I'm not on divinity duty, I'm running one of those. Now that we do so much damage, I'm usually not on it anymore. We just don't need it with things like particle deconstruction. Um, I would say that.
Mainly, I would say it's about having just a handful of high level drops for infusion fodder because you don't know what you're
Um,
going to get in and need.
I mean, I would
Like
I
Deep
would say
Stone.
that we don't know if you're gonna get a meta weapon in the raid.
Yeah. Or in Witch Queen proper, maybe glaives are just so useful and unanimously like, okay, this is
Um,
we have no idea what's gonna
Well, the other
happen
thing I wanted to
with
say
the
is
meta.
all of what we're saying here may get thrown out the window in 3.5 weeks with weapon crafting. We don't know how weapon crafting works yet. We don't know how much you have to pay to like do a god roll or to change your perks up on weapons. We don't know what any of that's going to cost yet. And we do know that the Witch
Yeah.
Queen raid, the Witch Queen weapons, and the raid weapons, as well as the seasonal weapons, will all be a part of that table when it comes out. You will be able to craft raid weapon. I'm gonna pull back on the raid one. I remember them saying raid, but I don't want to say it and get people excited if it's not actually, if I'm misremembering.
I will vouch for you on that it's the raid and the seasonal weapons are what's gonna start
Okay.
with
So
crafting. Yeah.
I would also say that probably world loot will be a part of it at some point.
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting way to like update, because I think after this now you don't have to worry about, oh, you take something out of the world loot pool. Well, you can craft a new one. You can
Yeah,
just craft that weapon again. Um, oh god, let's see. I think having a falling guillotine is just common sense at this point. There are,
yeah,
but if you're a Titan, I would say you can substitute Crown Splitter.
and I
Um,
can confirm I can keep up with DPS with falling guillotine if I'm running crown splitter. You
Crown Splitter is better than falling guillotine in terms of DPS.
yeah, if you have Vorpal,
Yep,
relentless or not relentless strikes. What was that? What's the falling guillotine perk that they nerfed? Whirlwind blade.
Whirlwind Blade.
Whirlwind blade used to be the best, but needing 10 light strikes to get the full damage seems a little much.
Yeah, I run Relentless Vorpal on mine now. Um,
Yep.
that seems to be the go-to. You still have a couple weeks. There is a specific engram in Splicer that is just for swords. Highly
Yep.
encourage you just if you somehow don't have a Vorpal Falling Guillotine and you want to raid within the first couple weeks of it being out, go get you a sword right now. You should have a Falling Guillotine already if you've played for any length of time. It is part of the world loot pool. Zur has sold it. Banshee has sold it a lot. Go get a Falling Guillotine with Vorpal.
Yeah. Look at Deepstone Crypt.
Yeah,
That was the second encounter. Even with all of the fun we had with swords, it still took a while for people to realize in the Atrax encounter that swords were the move. You know,
yeah.
so
We talk about. I mean, so let's finish up. Let's finish up legendaries, and then I want to get into a couple exotics that everyone should keep in their back pocket. Um, Fusions. There's really not a whole lot of options. I would say outside of Null Composure and Cartesian. I think those are probably your only two plays, and even
yeah,
then, you probably can run. And it's no offense to those weapons; those are great weapons, but those feel like those will be encounter specific weapons to use. Like if you're
yeah,
fighting a whole room of enemies, you don't want that. You want weapons with unlimited ammo.
yeah. Or even maybe, like I have this trusty adept plug one with reservoir burst. It's pretty good
Yeah.
at that. You know that could be an option for ad clear, but
I just it's hard for me to think of for ad clear where I would want a pulse rifle over salvagers with chain reaction.
yeah,
And I get that like some people may get really frustrated. I personally am not really good with using these things. I have to get kind of like point blank and take the chance of dying to use it effectively, unless there's
yeah.
just
It's
gobs of enemies.
kind of a lifestyle. Once you get it, it's very effective, but
Yeah.
you do need to put in some time to get that muscle memory down. Otherwise, you're just going to be screaming and shooting grenades through bad guys' feet and not killing anything, and that's never fun.
That was my experience trying to get my Gambit Triumph done for Moments of Triumph. Was that exact scenario? Um, I would say linear fusions. I don't think are going to take too big of a hit from particle deconstruction being gone. Keep a
No, I don't think
if
so
you
either.
have the ability to get Reed's Regret, get one with Vorpal or Triple Tap. Put it in your back pocket, or excuse me, Triple Tap Vorpal or Triple Tap Firing Line are what you want.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, Clown Cartridge, Vorpal, Threaded Needle.
yeah, yeah. It.
Um,
That's what I was using until Reed's
yeah,
Regret came out, and I still use it every once in a while when I need to worry about void shields. So
the only other like heavier special I can really recommend that's a legendary to keep in your back pocket is a and they're just specific roles for these clown cartridge, Vorpal, Royal Entry. No,
yep,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I've gone through at so many people's vaults and deleted so many things out of my own. Everything is starting to blend together now.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Or my personal pick that I really enjoy, especially when paired with Gallarhorn, is Impulse Chain Reaction on Code Duello. I think that's a
Yeah,
really sweet role. Like I said, Ascendancy definitely has its place with the Explosive Light perk being fixed now. I think it has its place. I don't think it's as good as those two, but it's certainly not an option to scoff at if we find out that it's a Gallarhorn meta for this raid. One person on Galley, everybody else on the best legendary rocket launcher they have. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, when we talk exotics that you want, maybe not personally, because I think exotics and raids are much more, with the exception of like doing A tracks with Lament. I think these are
yeah,
largely individual exotics, things that you just want to make sure people have in their inventories if they own them. Uh, divinity is, of course, I mean, I think that's an exception to the rule. You need, if you
Mhm.
plan on doing it day one, have a divinity. Have more
I
than
think
one person with it if you can, because sometimes you're going to need to change things up based on supers and play styles.
yeah. Or raid rolls, oh, I need to carry this thing, or oh, I got teleported over here, or we have
Yeah,
no
I mean,
idea.
we've
Yeah.
hit that so many times in week one of a raid or a dungeon, and thank God that you and me both have it. But when we've both been teleported, we're like, well, that's a wasted phase. Sometimes we're not going to get max damage. Um, I would say that's like the S tier weapon. That's like the only
Yeah.
S tier exotic for me for rating.
I
It's like
I would
S
I would
plus.
honestly throw a sleeper on that, but the thing with the day one raid race is you kind of don't have to focus on DPS. You kind of need to focus on survival and learning the mechanics before you get to the
Absolutely.
point where you're,
Absolutely, but I do think that DPS, like, because most bosses have an enrage thing, they have an enrage meter.
yeah,
I would
yeah,
say sleep in terms of pure raw damage. Sleeper and Gallarhorn. You want one
yeah,
Gallarhorn in your team. Everybody needs to have sleeper. If you can have sleeper with the catalyst, and the catalyst drops super quick out of strikes,
yeah.
um, run it because even without particle
That's probably the
deconstruction, that
safest bet
yeah.
for DPS right now. Not knowing the new meta, not knowing what are the toys we're gonna get. Without particle deconstruction, it's still top three in the game right now.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna say something a little. I'm gonna say two weapons that one I think is a no brainer, but they're both snipers. So Izanagi's Burden is a no brainer to me.
ooh, I would love it to
Um,
come back.
because with those charged shots, you just never know what those stacks. And with the new ammo economy, I think it's easier than ever to be able to get off 4 shots, pick up some
Mhm.
more, get 4 more shots off. I still think it's a top tier weapon even without the charged shots. I still think it's very good. It has a place for consideration.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
with those charge shots, especially with those charge shots, we don't know what kind of wacky mods we're going to get. I mean, maybe we get something for snipers that's like particle deconstruction. So if you have not bought Izanagi's Burden from the kiosk, go get it. Go get it. Do not walk. Do not collect go. Do not collect $200. Go get it. Whisper of the Worm is my other one.
okay,
I think this is the season where Whisper is making a comeback. I like the changes that they're making, but we need to be able to test it in an environment, and I think that
yeah,
maybe not day one, but I do think that that's going to be a top tier DPS option going forward. Is going to be Whisper of the Worm with the
yeah.
Catalyst, which is now going to be obtainable again.
I have I have a kinetic exotic that I want to throw out there for everyone to just slip into their back pocket. And I'm not memeing here. If for whatever reason, and this is usually a Vex thing, but if there's a lot of arc damage in the raid, Risk Runner
Risk
is
Runner.
actually a very useful tool
Mm-hmm.
for adding some survivability and dealing with ads. If for whatever reason there's a lot of arc damage, I really suggest Risk Runner for a lot of people when your main goal is just to survive long enough to
Yeah.
figure out how the mechanics work, you know.
Sorry,
But
I
if it's
just
the
put
damn
something in
scorn, it's
here.
going to be constant fire and or solar and void grenades. I hate the scorn; they're the
I
worst.
really do too. They're the absolute worst enemy we've ever gotten. I don't know why people wanted them to come back and why we couldn't just let them fade away into nothingness. I mean, God, we're taking their home away, and they're still going to be in the fucking game. Um, I think in terms of other exotics, like it's just kind of like dealer's choice. I don't think there's anything that's like Vex
Yeah,
isn't super meta right now. It's not overwhelming. It's still good. I would say it's still very good for ad clear,
yeah.
especially against Scorn with those solar shields. I think that could be a really good ad clear option.
Wither
Um,
Horde.
yeah, Wither Horde. I would say Wither Horde. Other than Izanagi's, that's probably my top pick for a primary.
Yeah,
Is Wither Horde. I think it definitely has a place. I don't know that the hand cannons or Deadman's necessarily do.
no.
Um,
No. I
no,
mean, I will bring a Fate Bringer ready to go because that is my workhorse weapon.
yeah.
That's the thing I can chew
Everybody
through
has an
ads
old
with.
reliable. John has his
Yeah,
Fate
exactly.
Bringer. I have my Messenger. I've gone into things before where John has literally said to me, he's like, "You sure you're going to run Messenger?" Yep, because
Yep.
you know your playstyle better than anybody. If you're going
Yep.
into a day one raid, my hope is that you know the people you're playing with well enough and that you trust them. But just, I think the biggest thing about a day one raid that we don't do is we're not prepared. Um,
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to sit. The last couple raids beg to differ, but I don't think that we need to have slug shotties ready to go. They've
Yeah.
nerfed those so far into the ground that that with divinity is surely not going to be the meta for any encounter in this one. But snipers, there's nothing wrong with having a sniper, even for just the final boss. You run out of your heavy, Vorpal sniper, baby. You that with a boss spec, you can still deal out like 40, 50k per headshot. Um, I think that those are probably the options you want to look at. Anything other than that, it's kind of niche. But bring your most reliable primary weapons. Your most reliable ad clears are what you want. I'm gonna walk in there day one and have Ikelos SMG and Messenger probably equipped when I load straight into that first encounter, just because those are
Yep.
my old reliable ad clears. I'm probably gonna, well, I won't have a summoner because trials won't be back until the weekend after. Um, I'll have a Shiura's ready to go if I need, because I know that they do a lot of void shields. If it's them or taken, they're gonna have a lot of void shields. I may even have a Death Adder, and like all this doesn't have to be in your inventory. Of course, now with Dim, with the Destiny Companion app, things like that, you can
Yep.
transfer weapons so quickly.
And
Um,
that's why the week before the raid launches, save up your weapon, and a couple of armor because you never know when you might need to switch up what exotic you're running. Um, Save some good prime drops for the raid. So if you need to, oh shit, this is actually the move here, switch everything up. You have something to infuse into what you're bringing in.
yeah. So John, unless you have anything else to add, I
Nope.
think that's going to do it for raid. And I guess one last
I
aside.
just need I just need to step out for 1 second. I
No,
will be
you're
right
good.
back
I'm going to keep
while you wrap
talking.
this up.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yep.
keep talking. I would say mods are going to be kind of the last thing I want to touch on real fast. You know your loadouts and your setups better than anybody. There is a legitimate reason to use elemental well mods. I have a feeling they're going to play into our 3.0 subclasses a lot more than we realize right now. I've been using them with my Peacebound and with my Stasis class personally. John got me turned
Yeah.
on to them a couple weeks ago. Um, I would say Charge with Light is probably getting indirectly nerfed by orb generation, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of the ultimate "it is what it is" scenario right now. We just don't know how that's going to be affected until we actually get in and play around in the Witch Queen sandbox.
Yeah.
Um,
But if you have someone with stasis on your group, that handy mod where stasis shards count as elemental wells, and elemental wells can
yeah,
make you times two charge with light. It's a really easy way to, keep that engine
I
going.
would say that's probably a way around it. And I think that Radiant Light and Powerful Friends are just great for anybody to have. A free
Yep.
plus 20, cool. If you're gonna wear those, you might as well slap on a high energy fire. So I'll probably still be running a Charge with Light build personally,
Yeah.
with
And
some
no matter
elemental
what,
wells.
you're going to pick up some orbs when we pop the well and it's time for damage. That's always going
Right.
to be there for you.
I would say hilariously maybe the most critical thing, because I mean when it comes to your exotics, it's kind of dealer's choice outside of Helm of Saint 14, Celestial Nighthawk, and your toe boots,
Lunafaction.
Your Lunafactions. I don't know like what else is going to be considered like absolutely essential to keeping your group alive, because your exotics are much more about either raw DPS or keeping your group alive at that point.
Yeah.
We don't know what new exotics are going to drop yet. Let's say if you're a hunter, maybe keep Omnioculus in your back pocket, for to try and go get those revives and whatnot. Um, I would say also, I mean, if you're a Titan, Curious of the Falling Star, you should absolutely have that on. You're only going to need one bubble. So if you've got multiple Titans, have those on. A Yeet can always save a life.
Yeah.
Um,
Another one for survivability for my Titans. I want to throw out Heart of Inmost Light.
yep,
Um,
yep.
it helps you chain together your abilities more and more, and especially with the that Void 3.0. ability that we're going to get where our barricades give people overshields. That might be handy to spam in contest mode raids.
I would also say Orpheus rigs for hunters with the
Yep.
changes to Void 3.0 coming. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I expect that to be an S tier exotic again for hunters. My biggest tip regarding armor, though, honestly, is go grind out Master Grasp of Avarice. Get a boss
Oh,
checkpoint
yeah.
and just grind the shit out of it. I was saying before our audio got messed up that you and I sat there and grinded it for a couple hours and made sure to get a full set. We got some extra pieces, and all of that, almost all the pieces we had were high stat. They were, and I consider high stat for me isn't 60 or above. It's like 63 and above.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not wearing anything that's a base of lower than a base 63. I would say getting at least 4 avarice class items is critical
Yeah.
because that's where a lot of your combat style mods go is in your class item. Um, I think that and the arms are probably the two most critical ones. Because that way you can have extra champion mods on, so it may not serve you in a raid, but in a grandmaster, that's going to be a knights. That's going to be a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Okay. Likewise, being able to run uh, potentially 3. If like somebody else is running focusing lens, you don't have to waste the space on that. If that's hypothetically one of our mods. If it was this season, I could have run focusing lens with the other two things and never have worried about particle deconstruction because the others were much more critical to my stasis build. So I needed to be running those. Creating extra shards, my melee stunning overload champs, things like that. Like that's where a lot of your fun creative ones are going to go is in your class item. So recommend that. The master boss can be a hassle the first couple times you do it, but once you get it down, man, it's like 20-25 minutes to run maybe.
Yeah.
We
And
will
if
do
you
that one
get real
phase.
good, you can get that down to 10 minutes or less, But
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so before we get out of here, we are going to skip lore corner tonight. We've been going for almost 2 hours at this point, and it's already going to be a lot for me to stitch together. We have a question from the audience tonight.
I'm
Uh,
excited.
I am excited to read this one as well. It is from our good friend Joasis. Joe, I'm going to pull your question up here real fast. Question for everyone, and I'm really excited for John to explain this one to you guys. Are you still maining the same class today that you started Destiny 1 or 2 with? John, I'm going to let you take the floor first on this one.
No, no, I'm not, and I don't know how similar my Destiny journey is to everyone else, but I started Destiny 1 as a warlock. When I booted up Destiny and I saw the menu,
Mm-hmm.
I why wouldn't I want to play with the space magic class in the game about space magic? And then Taken King came around and I saw that hunters got a fancy dodge and they got a void bow and you could pull people out of their supers. You could lock down an entire point with a tether. And I started maining started maining hunter. And then when I met some nerd named Josh Finney on a LFG post on Reddit and joined his friend group, realized that there wasn't a single Titan in the entire crew, and so I started playing with Titan, and now that's where my home is. I think all of the classes have a lot of unique things to bring to the table, and I don't mind filling whatever role is open for your group for any particular activity. But I have found a home in the Titan. I'm out here with my 128 box of crayons and couldn't be happier.
Did it come with a complimentary sharpener or not?
Oh yeah, and the side. Oh yeah, absolutely.
um, I have used the exact same hunter since the D1 alpha. I've never wanted to change off of hunter. I always enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I wanted the space magic, but I care a lot about the aesthetic also. And just seeing how the hunters were equipped made me feel like, yeah, that's how I would probably dress in Space America. Um, so I have stuck with the same hunter through and through. I hate every time. I've helped somebody get through the Forsaken campaign earlier in the week. I did the Chimera with them and basically one shot it said Chimera. But the end cutscene, they took my helmet off, and I was like, "Oh God, this is awful." I forget that this is my D1 Titan. You can't change your appearance or anything without restarting a new character, and I'm just so stubborn at this point that I won't. Even though I know I'll still get the veteran dialogue, I refuse to do it because this is the same hunter I've done every single thing with.
Yeah.
Um, my Warlock and my Titan, I should clarify, I do have a Warlock and a Titan. They are both from D1 as well. I did not recreate them for Destiny 2, but I so sparingly use them that they just kind of get dragged along for the ride at this point. Um, I've used my Warlock a few times, but my Hunter is near and dear to my heart. I like to think that him and Cade were drinking buddies and ramen enthusiasts together because that's how I am in real life. I'm a drinking buddy and I'm a ramen enthusiast. Um, I would probably raise a chicken if I could, but alas, I live in the big city, so that's not going to happen. Um, so the answer, long-winded answer to your question, yes. John has played the roulette wheel. The only thing that would get me to change classes or even races at this point, because I'm still an EXO, I'm an EXO on all three characters, is if they ever let me make an Elixni Guardian, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would make that my Warlock though, just like as I would like call it Elixni's Revenge or something. Mithrax's Revenge. I don't know. I'd come up with something ridiculous. Tanix's
Yeah.
son. I'd come up with some ridiculous backstory for him about like why he just hurls Nova bombs at Guardians in the Crucible now. Um, because I always played as an elite in Halo, so that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I'd love to be able to do it one day. Uh, but with that, we're going to cap off a very long episode. I was not planning on running for
Yeah,
about
for
2 hours.
such a light TWAB, you and me get
Well, it
start
was it
getting
was a
talking
light
about
schwab, but
clothes.
we definitely had big topics to get to though. And to be fair, we probably would have cut like 25 minutes of this out had Dylan not put out that list of weapons tonight and would have done it tomorrow instead. You guys just would have heard more complaining next week from me. Um, but we're gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Corey will be back next week to right the ship. I do not know if I'll be here next week because I have suddenly remembered that next Thursday I I'm checking my calendar. Yep, next Thursday is my girlfriend's birthday. If I do a podcast next Thursday, I may actually be murdered. So I will talk with Corey and see what's going on. But Corey may be roping in one of our old friends from the LFG next week to do some with him. If not, you will get a delayed episode Friday night. I'm sure we could get together and record one Friday afternoon after work. So, John, thank you for joining me. You want to tell the people where they can find you?
They can find me, and I totally know my own Twitter at. That's a thing. At A1Johnny with three N's, and hopefully on another Tower Casuals soon as we get into Witch Queen and have many more exciting things to talk about.
Yep. And then, as always, you can find Corey on Twitter at I am Corey in HD. You find me on Twitter at Josh_Finn with two N's. I am debating about if I'm going to come back to Twitch. It kind of depends on if I can get a new router in here before Witch Queen, get it all set up, troubleshoot it, that good stuff. We kind of think we've identified why I had a problem streaming, and it has something to do with the fact that my router does not like Xbox and Twitch running at the same time. Because in the past, when Corey and I have been recording, that is what has also caused me to drop when we've been podcasting. So we finally identified the root of it. So I need to get AT&T out here, fix my gateway, things like that. But from Corey, from Johnny, from me, we will see you on another episode of Tower Casuals, and we will catch you Starside.